What's up, everybody? This is Matt from Crunchmoo, and I'm here today with my Under the Radar video. This is my first video for this series. As if you don't know, Under the Radar is our ongoing series where we talk about games that we don't feel have been appreciated enough. And the first video is by Tucker, and that was Tropico 3, a great strategy game that really no one talks about compared to like games like Civilization and stuff like that. That one goes under the radar a lot. So Tropico's a good one to check out. My game today is quite different. As you can see by the title, I'm here to talk about Alice Madness Returns. Now, the Alice series started out in, I believe it was 2000 with American McGee's Alice. This was only on the PC. It was a PC exclusive platform action adventure game. And it was fantastic. It got great reviews at the time. And then the series went dormant for 11 years until Alice Madness Returns came out. And we touched on this in our EA video. And I got to give EA, no matter how you feel about them, I got to give them credit for giving a chance to American McGee to make another Alice game, because honestly, after 11 years, you really wouldn't think there would be another one. So kudos to them, and I'm glad they did, because I love Alice Madness Returns. It's a fantastic game. If you ask me what one of my favorite, most underappreciated games is, even if we're not talking about underappreciated, one of my most favorite games is the Alice series, in particular Madness Returns, because I actually played the first Alice with Madness Returns on the Xbox. Great game, but it's kind of built for the PC. I played it on an Xbox controller. You could definitely tell that it was not meant to be played with a controller. So, I mean, it's still a great game though. So if you can get Alice Madness Returns new, I definitely recommend that you get it new, because when you buy a new copy, you get the first game for free. It's kind of like the online pass thing, but there's no online for Madness Returns, so they just gave out a code for the first game. Now, Alice Madness Returns is a similar type of game. You know, a lot of people label it, well, when I say a lot of people, basically Wikipedia and some other places label it as a psychological horror game. Really, I would not go that far. I guess you could say it's got elements that might be a little creepy to some people, but it's really not a horror game. It's a straight-through action-adventure game, a lot of platforming elements, and a lot of combat. Now, I'll get it right out of the bat. One thing that is definitely a flaw with the game, it can get a little bit repetitive, especially if you play it, you know, if you just play it straight through, no breaks. When I say breaks, obviously, I don't mean taking a little break in between. I mean playing other games. If you just play Alice straight through to the end, you might get a little burnt out on it halfway through. So I recommend mix and match. Play Alice a little bit. Maybe play an online game for a while. Go back to Alice. Play another different game. Go back to Alice. Don't just play it straight through, because you might find it a little bit repetitive. I can totally see that argument as to why people would think that, because the combat really doesn't change throughout the entire game. You do get new weapons. You get you'll start out with a Vorpal Blade, and you end up getting two weapons, the Pepper Grinder and the Teapot Cannon, where you can attack from a distance. And you also get the Hobby Horse, which is essentially another melee weapon, but a heavy attack as opposed to a light attack. So, yeah, and the story is great. It takes a little bit to get to where the story wants to go, so you're kind of wondering a lot early on where it's going, but once it gets to the big reveal, it's very good. And I love the final chapter with the final boss fight. Very good stuff. And there also is another game that might be coming out. American McGee, as of this recording, has started a Kickstarter, and I believe the max limit he's going for is, not the max limit, I shouldn't say that, but the minimum limit he's going for is $200,000. Last time I checked, he had about $126,000, and there's 5 days left. Hopefully, he raises enough money to make the next game. A little bit of synopsis: the next game would be called Alice Otherlands, obviously implying that she's not just going to be in Wonderland this time. And it would be her going into other people's minds, so you explore the psyche of other people, and that could open up to a lot of possibilities. So hopefully that game gets made, because the second one was a fantastic game that you should definitely check out. Any fan of action adventure, any fan of platforming, because honestly, there's not a lot of platformers coming out nowadays. The day of platformers has long gone. So it's nice to see a game that's not necessarily a true platformer, but it's definitely got a lot of elements of it in there. or if you just like unique games, because there really isn't very much like Alice Madness Returns on the market nowadays. They just don't make games like this anymore. It's really, not bashing Call of Duty, because I think Call of Duty has done a lot of things right, but it's also done a lot of things wrong, because now every game feels like it has to be kind of like Call of Duty. But when you get games like Alice Madness Returns, you really have to cherish it, because they're pretty unique nowadays, and honestly, not a lot of people talk about it. So if you haven't played the game, definitely recommend you check it out. And if you have played the game, hopefully you agree with me. If you don't, hey, I totally understand some of the complaints people had about it, but I'm a big fan of it, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video.